song to God about how wonderful He is. Lifting hands in song and dance, humbled by the glory of the cross. We have been redeemed and reconciled, caught up in the splendor of it all. Eternal life today, we'll bring a song of praise. How wonderful, how lovely is your name. You captivate our hearts and save us by your grace. Oh, God of mercy, God of love, how we marvel at your majesty. As we kneel before your holy throne, in the beauty of your mystery, we're children of the King, Father of your love we sing. How wonderful, how lovely is your name. You captivate our hearts and save us by your grace. How wonderful, how lovely is your name. You captivate our hearts and save us by your grace. Closer than a brother, Jesus. Closer than a brother, Jesus. Oh, the name of Jesus. Oh, the name of Jesus. Oh, the name of Jesus. How wonderful, how lovely is your name. You captivate our hearts and save us by your grace. How wonderful, how lovely is your name. You captivate our hearts and save us by your grace. How wonderful, how lovely is your name. You captivate our hearts, save us by your grace. Jesus died for me. Yes, He died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Okay, you can sit down for a second. Welcome again to the warehouse. Thank y'all for joining us for worship this morning. I actually have several announcements, and as I get older, my wife says I have to write them down. Matter of fact, she wrote them down and handed this to me. She doesn't trust me to wing it. So, a few announcements that we have this morning. Number one, I want to say thank you to Stanley Harvey for bringing us cookies over here. This is the eating group, so we appreciate you, Stanley. Thank you for that. We have erased the prayer wall in the back. So if you know of somebody that needs prayer, please add them to the wall. We kind of erase it periodically just to make sure we have people who need prayer. Some people don't need to be on it anymore because they have overcome whatever issue they were having. Hopefully some of which because of prayer. So if you have somebody in the community, in your family that is in need of prayer, please add them to the prayer wall. And if you don't add anybody to the prayer wall, please make sure that you look at the prayer wall on the way in and on the way out. For Valentine's next Sunday, we have a couple of things. The youth, as a fundraiser, are doing virtual singing Valentines. So if you have somebody that you want to give one to, embarrass, something like that, the youth will be glad to do that for you. Cody's here today. You can certainly talk to him, or Jenna can sign you up for those. I think they're charging like $5 or so. It's not a lot, and it'd be a neat thing to send somebody for Valentine's. So I'm not giving any kudos on how good the singing's actually going to be, but I'm sure it will be funny if nothing else. So if you're interested in that, please see Jenna or Cody after. Next Sunday, on the actual Sunday, is Valentine's Day, so we're going to try and do a few special things here at the service. If you show up, we may actually give you some kind of special treat. Incentive to come, invite somebody, so make sure you do that. Just remember today that we have communion. We do communion with an open table here in the warehouse and in the Methodist Church. Anybody's invited to come, and what we'll do is, Wayne, have you handed out the cups? So Wayne handed out the cups. If you don't have one, we can get one for you, and at the appropriate time, we'll be doing that. So please participate in that. I do want to do a little special recognition this morning. You know, there's a lot of parts that go to putting together a service, from the sound people to the band to the pastor, whoever's preaching that day. There's just a lot that goes on, and there's also a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And I do want to have a special thank you this morning. If anybody in here has ever been in the back of the warehouse, it is not a pleasant experience. It looks like literally a bomb went off at any particular time. As someone who is clumsy, I have fallen down in there more than once because I walk in the dark thinking I know where everything is and hit a giant ball or a guitar amp or something like that. Yesterday when I came to get ready for the service, I walked in and literally lost my breath on how clean it was. And after doing some digging, I found out that Wayne had come up and cleaned out the back of the warehouse on top of everything else he does for the service. So Wayne, we have a special thank you for your day. Come on up. And he does a lot for the service, so we want to have a special thank you, Wayne. Now, what this means is the next time it gets to looking like that in the year, I'll need you to come back. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, we're going to do one more song for y'all, and then we'll have Keith up for the service, sermon, and then we'll be joining y'all. Please stand with us.
Jesus, you have won me. You have broken every chain with love and mercy. You've triumphed over death, and you are worthy of glory and praise. Oh Jesus, you have won me. You have broken every chain with love and mercy. You triumphed over death, and you are worthy of glory and praise. Chain with love and mercy, you triumphed over death, and you are worthy of glory and praise. Oh Jesus, you have won me. You have broken every chain with love and mercy. You triumphed over death, and you are worthy of glory and praise, of glory and praise.
Thank you. Be seated.
Very good, my friend. Well, thank you for being here this morning. And just a couple of announcements. Our District Superintendent, Doreen Smalls, wanted to announce that someone had been sending out emails to church members in our district claiming to be the district superintendent, okay, and requesting some form of help. You knew that was coming, didn't you? So you can just ignore it. It's a scam. All right, so remember that if you get something in your junk box or your inbox. All right, and we pray for Sammy and Nathan Squires. Going to have a C-section tomorrow, right? And we just pray everything will go well. Yes, we're happy about that. And we will keep up with you and stay informed. So remember Sammy and Nathan in your prayers, especially tomorrow. All right, our scripture is from Mark chapter 1, beginning at verse 16. One day Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee. He saw Simon Peter and his brother Andrew throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and followed Jesus. And this is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. I read about a couple and their young 5-year-old son driving up the coast of Florida on vacation. She was a conservationist, So she was very pleased to see a sign that read Naturist Camp. So they drove into the park, parked their car, headed for the beach. And very quickly they realized that a naturist camp is not a naturalist camp. When a group of people rode up on their bicycles, stark naked. Their 5-year-old son stopped and stared at these bicyclers with his mouth open wide, and he reported on what he observed. Mom, Dad, they're not wearing their safety helmets. There's so many moving parts in the church, it's easy to focus on the wrong things, right? And I think we can sometimes miss the obvious and most important thing, lose sight of the true mission and ministry of the church. Come, follow me, Jesus says, and I will show you how to fish for people. Quite often I see a group of youth holding up signs along the road, trying to direct traffic to their car wash. Some of you have seen that as well, trying to support missions. But I wonder if we might get the idea that youth ministry is about washing cars or going on trips together. I've been involved in church men's groups and women's groups and youth groups who sell baked items to raise money for their trips and ministry projects. Do we sometimes get the idea that doing church is about baking cakes and collecting money and fundraising? In every church I've served, there have been meetings to address things like a leaking roof, a failing air conditioning system. In fact, I reported on a leaking roof today. Paint that started to peel, floor covering that needs to be replaced, and here's my big one, doors that will not close or lock. All right, I said it. All right. If a stranger on the outside were to come in and listen in to some of these meetings and some of these conversations, that person might get the idea from the great passion and emotion and time and energy we put toward these things that church is about maintaining our beautiful buildings. Mom, Dad, they're not wearing their safety helmets. Easy to miss the obvious. Everything we do as a church needs to be seen through the lens of the purpose and mission of the church. Our United Methodist Book of Discipline reminds us what that mission and ministry is. The mission of the church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Jesus wants us to learn how to fish for people. And you know that song we sang? We shout and sing it out until all the world can hear it. Jesus rescues and Jesus saves, right? So we're always asking along the way, how is this ministry, this program, this worship service, this activity making disciples of Jesus Christ and transforming the world? That's the question. During the summer of 1990, before launching the United Methodist Church of the Resurrection, Reverend Adam Hamilton wrestled with 3 questions. Why do people need Christ? Why do people need the church? And why do people need this particular church? Good questions. If people need Christ for eternal salvation and to live a meaningful life in the here and now, why do they need this particular church? The ongoing question for us, are we fulfilling our purpose as a church? So easy to lose sight of the main thing. The goal in the game of football, we're going to be watching one today, is to get the ball across the goal line or between the uprights. The goal is not to end the game with an unsoiled jersey, right? Or to gather out in the middle in a huddle and decide who can tell the funniest joke or who's got the nicest pair of shoes or even who makes the most money. And I think we know who that is. Tom Brady, probably. Every huddle, every timeout, every fourth down punt, every scramble and trick play have only one purpose. Get that ball across the goal line. And that one goal is never more obvious than when a player lunges forward and in an heroic diving effort passes the ball through the end zone. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team goes out on the field, gets positioned on the line of scrimmage, and begins a precise, well-rehearsed, choreographed dance routine, they will not win the ball game. The crowd will enjoy it. I'll enjoy it. That'll be fun to watch. Might look good, but Tampa Bay will lose the game for one reason only. They've lost sight of the goal in the game of football. Churches are not in the child care business. Churches are not in the music business. We're not in the food business. We're not in the building maintenance business. These items, these activities are only tools intended to help us reach the goal line, to make disciples of Jesus Christ, so the world can be transformed. The mechanic who thinks that his goal is to own the most tools and keep them safe and clean in proper order, he's not going to be in business very long. Every tool in this box, every single tool has one purpose: repair this car, repair this truck. All that we do as a church family must somehow tie into our God-given purpose, move us toward the goal line. We're trying to make disciples of Jesus Christ who follow his life and his teachings, so that lives and families and schools and businesses and communities and even governments can be transformed, so that the world will look a little more like Jesus Christ until the kingdom comes and heaven comes to earth. It's been said that too many of us Christians are concerned about the wagon and not the load. I once read about a group of tourists who were being shown through London's Westminster Abbey, famous church, incredibly beautiful and ornate building. Well, the guide on this tour pointed out where the king and the queen would sit during worship and mentioned the names of other royalty who had visited there over the past. And then the guide closed the tour with these words: "This is the most famous pulpit in the world. Now, are there any questions?" One woman in the back of the room timidly raised her hand and asked, "Has anyone been saved here lately?" The tour guide was a little puzzled. Would you repeat the question? Has anyone been saved here recently? The tour guide thought a moment and said, "I have never been asked that question, and I do not know the answer." But that's the most important question, isn't it? That's it right there. It gets to the heart of the matter. Has anyone been saved here lately? Any lost found? Any disciples made? John Wesley instigated and propelled the Methodist movement, even though he was an Anglican priest till his death. He was a pulpit preacher. He loved the large crowds that often gathered in beautiful church buildings to hear him preach. But he realized that his work and his ministry within these buildings was not effectively reaching the people Jesus Christ came to save. "I love to preach in a large, commodious room," he wrote, "with a soft cushion and a handsome pulpit. But outdoor field preaching saves souls. Our Methodist societies, he said, were formed from those who were wandering upon the dark mountains that belonged to no Christian church, but were awakened by the preaching of the Methodists, who had pursued them through the wilderness of this world, to the highways, the hedges, the markets, the fairs, the hills, the dales. They set up the standard of the cross in the streets and the lanes of the cities, in the villages, in the barns, and in the farmers' kitchens. And all this done in such a way and to such an extent as never had been done before since the apostolic age. Wesley loved preaching in beautiful buildings with hand-carved pulpits and vaulted ceilings. But when that tool of a building no longer worked to save souls, he left the building, led his Methodist colleagues out into the wilderness, the hedges, the highways, the markets, the streets, the lanes, the villages, the barns, the farmers' kitchens, with one purpose: to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Well, you've heard me say this before perhaps, but today the best approach, I think, to reach people is to start with using our hands to do good in a way that touches the heart and then reaches the head with the question, why are you doing this? So in this order, our hands, the heart, and the head. I think many people in the past, many today, start with the head, hoping to reach the heart. So we give our explanations, we give our arguments, we give our reasons, hoping people will think about the goodness of God and accept His love and forgiveness. We often start with the head, hoping to win the heart. And though that order has worked, it still works, I've come to think that the best order for today's culture is to go from the hands to the heart, to the head. I have a very good friend. She is pastor of a church, also works with people as a counselor. She considers this her gift and ministry. She has trained herself to listen patiently and closely and kindly and then share with a person God's love and wisdom. She does this very, very well. She told me about counseling with someone she had met recently, meeting with him, I think, at a Wendy's restaurant. But at the end of the conversation, he got up to leave, and then he turned on his heels and came back, sat down, looked at my friend, and asked, "Why do you do this?" That's the order. That's how it works. People see what we do. It touches the heart. And they ask with their head, "Why are you doing this? Why do you feed the hungry? Why do you care for the people who are dying? Why do you write cards and make phone calls to comfort the lonely? Why do you try to meet the needs of the poor and the needy in our community? Why? Why do you support Wesley Glen Ministries, the United Methodist Ministry for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities? Why do you support Vashti Thomasville that provides resources for children and youth and families to change their destructive behavior into productive, healthy behavior? Why do you support Magnolia Manor, the Methodist Home for Children and Youth? Why do you support the Friday night hut outreach? People see what we do. It touches the heart. And they ask with their head, "Why do you do this?" And then when they learn why we do these things, they might respond, "Your Jesus is who I want my God to be." The best approach from our hands to the heart, to the head. Matthew 5:16, "Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works." See what you do with your hands. And then they will give glory to your Father in heaven. And remember, a soul that is saved, a follower of Jesus Christ, is not only prepared for eternity, but the person is prepared to live the best life possible in the here and now. One of the early church fathers, St. Gregory the Great, wrote in one of his letters, "Make haste and with full purpose of heart to win souls to our God." That's the heart of the matter. And we must be intentional in keeping it the heart of the matter. Why? Because the church has so many moving parts. It's easy to get distracted, focus on other things, even good things. But knowing the heart of the matter will make no difference unless we make it a matter of the heart. Anyone who has studied about the growth and the health of the Christian church likely knows the name of the late Lyle Schaller. One Christian magazine calls him the dean of church consultants. He wrote over 60 books on various topics. One of the leaders in our United Methodist Church, the retired Bishop Emerson Colall, once asked Dr. Schaller this question: "Can you tell us why the United Methodist Church is declining in membership? Our clergy are splendidly trained." Exhibit A. Our facilities generally more than adequate. Our image positive. Our theology relevant. Why then do we decline in membership? Schaller replied to the bishop, "If you want a blunt answer," he said, "it's because we do not care. We have the resources and we know how to grow, but it is not a priority." Has the heart of the matter really become a matter of the heart? We care, Schaller might say, but do we care enough? Well-known author Max Lucado tells the story of Maria, a single parent whose husband died when her daughter Christina was still an infant. Maria stubbornly refused opportunities to remarry. She got a job. She set out to raise her young daughter by herself. After 15 years, Maria felt the worst was over. She had a modest job as a maid, and now Christina was old enough to get a job and help out. But Christina rebelled against the idea of marrying young and raising a family. She often spoke of going to the city and trading in her dusty neighborhood for exciting avenues and city life. Well, of course, Maria was horrified. Was always quick to remind her of the harshness of the streets. People don't know you there. Jobs are scarce. Life is cruel. And besides, if you were there, what would you do for a living? Maria knew exactly what Christina would do. And it broke her heart. One morning, Maria awoke and found Christina's bed empty. Maria knew immediately where her daughter had gone. So she gathered a few clothes, gathered up all of her money, and she ran out of the house. On her way to the bus stop, she entered the drugstore to get one last thing: pictures. She sat in one of those old photo booths, started taking picture after picture after picture, all the money that she had to spend. So with a purse full of black and white photos, she boarded the next bus for Rio de Janeiro. When she arrived, Maria began her search, bars and hotels and nightclubs, and she went to all of them. Everywhere she went, she would tape up a picture of herself in bathrooms, on bulletin boards and phone booths. And on the back of each picture, she wrote a note. Well, it wasn't long before Maria's money ran out, and weeping for her daughter, she returned home. A few weeks later, that young Christina descended the hotel stairway. Her young face was tired. Her brown eyes no longer danced with youth, but spoke of pain and fear. Her dream had become more like a nightmare. 1,000 times over, she had longed to trade these countless beds for her secure pallet. And yet it seemed that that little village where she once lived was in too many ways too far away. At the bottom of the stairs, she noticed a familiar face. She looked again. And there on the lobby mirror was a picture of her mother. Christina's eyes burned, her throat tightened as she walked across the room to remove that picture. And on the back, she read her mother's note. Whatever you have done, whatever you have become, it doesn't matter. Please come home. And she did. Love will always find a way. Indifference will always find an excuse. So may God motivate us and move us toward the goal line, as though the ones we're seeking and hoping to find are our own children and grandchildren. If the heart is willing, we will find 1,000 ways to reach our family, our friends and co-workers, and the broken and needy in our community. But if the heart is not willing, we will find 1,000 excuses, and any one of them will do. Well, we all know the heart of the matter.